Today's lesson is how to add mixed numbers. That's a whole number with a fractional part. All right, let's say that we have 3 1/4 plus 4 1/4. So let's say that after Halloween trick-or-treating, Shane decided to eat 3 1/4 candy bars, and Alex decided to eat 4 1/4 candy bars. How much did they eat altogether? Okay, so we notice that there is a whole number in each mixed fraction and a fractional part in each mixed fraction. Let's start with the fractional part here. 1/4 plus 1/4 would be 2/4. Can we simplify that? Yes, we can. 2/4 is the same as 1/2. And then we've also got our whole numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7. So as a final answer, we have not 7 2/4, but 7 1/2 for the final answer. So altogether, Shane and Alex ate 7 1/2 candy bars. Well, we had some other trick-or-treaters as well. Sydney went trick-or-treating, and afterwards she wasn't very hungry, so she only ate 1 3/5 candy bars. So about 1 1/2. And Lissa went trick-or-treating as well, and she was a little bit more hungry after all the walking that she did, so she ate 2 4/5 candy bars. That's almost 3 whole candy bars. She really worked up an appetite. All right, so let's do the same thing that we did before, and let's combine the fractional parts first. 3/5 and 4/5. 3 plus 4 is 7. So 7/5. Yikes. Can we simplify that? We definitely can, but let's come back to that afterward. And then we've also got our fractional part. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 7/5. Yuck! That's horrible. It's like a mixed number and improper fraction together. We definitely need to do something about that. So let's take that 3 7/5 and rework it. So this really means 7 divided by 5. So we've got 7 divided by 5. We could take one whole group of 5 out of 7. We would have 2 left. So that means that our new mixed number for 7/5 would be 1 and 2/5. All right, now the final step. We have 3 that we're working with. We now have 1 2/5 that we're working with. We need to combine these two. 3 plus 1 is 4, and we still have 2/5 left over. So altogether, Sydney and Alyssa ate 4 2/5 candy bars. All right, let's do another one, and let's draw this one out this time, because sometimes you can solve these by drawing. On this wonderful night of trick-or-treating, let's say Amanda got back and she decided to eat 3 2/8 candy bars. So that would look like this. Write this problem and draw it out. So this picture represents Amanda's 3 2/8 candy bars. Well, she wasn't the only one that went trick-or-treating last night. Tristan also went trick-or-treating, and when he got back, he wasn't quite as hungry. Maybe he didn't walk quite as far, but he ate 2 4/8 candy bars. So your drawing for Tristan should look like this. What we can think about is combining the whole candy bars to see how many they ate in all, and then dealing with the fractional parts later on. So Amanda has 3 whole candy bars, and Tristan has 2 whole candy bars. So that means that we've got at least 5 candy bars. But wait, we're not done. We still have those little bits and pieces, and they count for something. we've got 4/8 and 2/8 together. Well, let's imagine for just a second that we can move around the candy bars from one person's stash to another. And let's move these 2/8 from Amanda's stash to Tristan's. So basically, we don't have to think about Amanda's leftovers anymore if we kind of imagine them combining with Tristan's. So Tristan had 4/8, and then we put 2 more 8s there, which means that now we've got 6/8. But wait, we're not done. 6/8 can be simplified. If we now look at this candy bar, not as 8ths, but as 4ths, that will help us. We have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. How many 4ths do they have together? 1, 2, 3 4ths. So now our final answer is not 5 6/8, but 5 3/4. Final answer, box it up. So sometimes when you are adding mixed numbers, you're going to need to simplify your fractional amount. Maybe because you can make the fraction in lowest terms, or maybe because the fraction that you got was an improper fraction and it needs to spill over into those whole numbers and combine with those whole numbers instead. But the trickiest part is when you're adding a mixed number and the fractional parts don't have the same denominator. Okay, we had some more trick-or-treaters as well. Trey went trick-or-treating and he ate 5 6/8 pieces of candy. And Anthony went trick-or-treating and he ate 4 5/12 pieces of candy. Now don't go deer in headlights on this. You know how to solve this, one step at a time. Work with the fractions first. Can we add them the way they are? No, because they don't have common denominators. We're talking about different size fractional amounts, different size pieces. We can't add those together because they're not alike. So, first things first, we need to make common denominators. Think to yourself right now, how do you make common denominators? Well, let's list the multiples of 8 and 12 and come up with the least common multiple, or the lowest one. That way we won't have as much simplifying to do at the end. So, list your multiples for 8 and 12. Press pause now. You might have gotten about this far before you noticed something and a bell went off inside your head. Ding, 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 ding. 24 is the least common multiple. So it's going to become our lowest or least common denominator. The new pants! Yay! So let's get those new pants on those fractions. So our 6/8 is going to become something 24ths. And our 5/12 is going to become something 24ths. But what are those numerators going to be? Well, you know how to do this too. Think to yourself, how did we get from 12 to 24? Well, we multiplied by 2, so we need to do that to the numerator as well. And 5 times 2 is 10. Now let's work with our other fraction. How did we get from 8 to 24? Multiplied by 3. We know it was multiplying by 3 because it was the third multiple that we listed. And we need to do the same thing to the numerator. Multiply by 3, and 6 times 3 is 18. There's a lot going on here, so I'm going to box some things up so that I know what I need to deal with. I'm now dealing with 18 24ths and 10 24ths. Okay, I'm ready to add these fractions. 18 plus 10 is 28. And I'm talking about the same size pieces, 20/4. Yuck! All right, I'll deal with that later. I know that I also need to take care of these whole numbers. 5 plus 4 is 9. Okay, so I have 9 and 28/24. Like I said before, yuck! Let's work this out. 9 and 28/24. I know that I can't keep 28/24 the way it is because it's an improper fraction. So let's deal with it. 28 divided by 24. All right, how many whole groups of 24 can we take out? Just one. Take out that group of 24, and we're left with 4. So we've got our whole number, 1, and we've got our remainder, our fractional amount, 4. And we know what our denominator is because that hasn't changed. We're still talking about the same size pieces, 20/4. Okay, now you might be thinking, I'm not done for 2 reasons. Reason number one is, well, I need to now combine the 9 with the 1 and 4/24. True, we do need to do that. 10 and 4/24. But we also need to look at this fraction. Can that be simplified? Why, yes it can. 10 and 4/24. That 4/24, we know it can be simplified, or as some people might say, reduced. First of all, they're both even, so we know that we could at least cut them in half. But I'm going to challenge you to find that GCF, the greatest common factor, so that you're not having to have and then have again and have again and have again. Sometimes it can go on for a few steps. So let's see if we can just find the greatest common factor that 4 and 24 share. So think about it. What are the different ways to make 4 with multiplication facts? And what are the different ways to make 24 with multiplication facts? Go ahead and list them right now and do the loop to find the greatest common factor. You can pause it right now if you think that you can do that on your own, or if you need to look back in your how-to book at a previous lesson for finding the greatest common factor, and then you can hit play again and I can walk you through it. All right, here are all the factors of 4 and all the factors of 24. What we want to do is we want to find the greatest common factor, meaning the greatest factor that they both have in common, that they share. 4 would be the greatest common factor that they share. So we could divide both the numerator and the denominator up here in our 4/24 by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So 1/6 is our simplified fraction, our fraction in lowest terms. So our answer then would be 10 and 1/6. Final answer. Now you might be thinking, man, I can just have it and have it again in my head, cut them both in half, and get the same answer. And I can do that a lot more efficiently and a lot more quickly. That's just fine. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. But you might have a few steps to keep track of. You might be thinking also, finding the greatest common factor, this GCF here, this 4, it seems like it's a lot of work and a lot of writing. Well, eventually you're going to get to the point where you don't have to do all of this on paper. If you practice on paper now, you're going to get so good at it that you're going to be able to do that in your head. And you're going to think, well, I could just cut them in half. I could divide by 2. But if I look at these numbers, maybe there's a more efficient way. Is there anything greater that I could divide by and save myself some work? And that 4 might just pop into your head, and that's great. So eventually, we want to move you to the place where you can think of those greatest common factors in your head. That way you can do one division step and come up with the correct answer. Your task is to come up with 2 or 3 students from your discussion group and make a story problem about them. If you are looking for an extra challenge, I would say come up with 3 students and definitely have different denominators for the fractional amount. If you are looking for a task that is a little bit less challenging while you're still figuring all of this out, just do 2 students and maybe make the fractional amount have the same denominator. If you're looking for a medium challenge, not too awfully hard, but still not something that you're going to get in a snap and you want to push yourself and grow, pick 2 students and pick the fractional amounts that will add up to more than 1, so you'll have an improper fraction that you need to convert over. Anyway, pick 2 or 3 students from your discussion group and make up a story problem about them that has to do with how much Halloween candy they ate. It needs to be an addition problem, and it needs to be addition with, that's a W, with mixed numbers. And you need to come up with a simplified answer. So an answer in lowest terms. You will be swapping these problems with someone in your discussion group tomorrow on your own personal math whiteboards. So you need to make sure that you have the work done and you have the problem solved so that when you swap with someone else tomorrow, you can check their work and make sure they got it right. And if you didn't get the same answer, see who might have made the mistake and where they went wrong. Have fun with this task. Can't wait to hear about all of the Halloween candy tomorrow.